Are you out here dating and don't know WTF you doing or what's going on? Well, I'm here to tell you that the best place to start is by setting healthy boundaries, because that is the only way that you're going to navigate this game successfully. Hola a todos, es tu prima favorita Bobby here, and welcome back to mi canal. If you are new here, welcome to my channel, and thank you for joining me today in the Cousins Corner. I am tu prima favorita Bobby, and I just like to talk. And today, something that I want to talk about is setting healthy boundaries in dating. Whether you date men, whether you date women, whether you date non-binary, setting boundaries is something that is very important and something that I had to learn and continue to learn. I'm not an expert at it by any means, but it is something that I can tell you for a fact is super important when it comes to dating and super important when it comes to your success in dating. Not only is setting boundaries important, it is key to maintaining a successful and fulfilling relationship as well. So if you go beyond dating, if y'all make it to the next stage, like, you still have to have healthy boundaries. So let's get into it. The first boundary that you need to set, the first thing that is so important, is to know your values and needs. You need to know yourself. Before you can even think about setting boundaries, you have to know what your values are, what your needs, and what it is that you desire overall from a relationship. You really have to know and reflect on what is the most important to you for your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. One thing with me, I can say that I have gotten better with time about just setting that boundary, about knowing what it is that I want when I'm approaching the dating scene. And I understand that sometimes we can be in places where it's just like, I don't necessarily know what I want, or I'm not necessarily looking for something that's super concrete right now. So then I'm kind of going into it all willy-nilly. But honestly, even with that, you have to have some type of boundary for that. You still need to know what is valuable to you. I'll give an example and go get a little personal. But for me, it's like, I desire eventually to be partnered. I desire to be in a relationship with fun, man, that we can show up for each other. But I do know that at the stage I'm in as far as dating, like, I'm not looking to take somebody to the altar today, tomorrow, even next week, or even in the next couple months or whatever, right? So it's like, I do go into dating with a pretty open mind, but also I've had to really check myself for that too, because it's like, if you go in too open and you don't set boundaries on what it is that you value and what you need, even if it's in something casual, even if it's in something, you know, not necessarily exclusive, or if it is something exclusive, or if you're dating or not dating, you know, specifically one person, whatever the case may be, you have to know what is important to you. And one thing for me that comes up is that communication is important to me and consistency is important to me. And that's if I'm in a casual type of shindig. I don't know why I call it a shindig, but if I'm in a casual type of situation, or if I'm in a more serious or even exclusive situation, and especially in a relationship. I'm not the type of person that desires over communication. I'm not like, text me and call me every day. That's not me. I don't have time for that. But I am a person who values that. So it's like, I do want to hear from you. I do want to make sure that this is a safe space where we both feel like we can reach out to each other and it is received well. It is not, you know, no one feels like, oh, you're hounding me, or you're being too clingy, or you're being a nuisance, or whatever. Just open communication without super long periods of time of nothingness, right? Because to me, I don't know about y'all, but to me, that's ghosting. You can call it what you want, but that's just what it is. And for me, it's a value because it's like, I value knowing that you have an interest in me. I value being able to show up and show you that I have an interest in you. Now, if it's something that's a bit more casual, or something that's a bit more early on, or hasn't really been defined or anything like that, then I do understand that there is room for more space. There's not going to be as much communication or consistency or whatever the case may be. But to me, it's still valuable to at least know, like, we good, you alive, I'm alive, cool, I'm gonna hit you up, you gonna hit me, yeah, all right, cool, you know? Like, I'm like, send a bat signal, send a meme, like, just let me know that you're still breathing and that you're still there. Like, we still in the cut, we still good. That's something that I value. I value communication. And it's something also that I feel like it's a need of mine. It's just, I want to know that I'm wanted. I want you to know that you're wanted. And I want to be able to feel like we can share that with each other. And then of course, if I'm in a relationship or if I'm dating somebody, whether it's exclusively or consistently, then that might up the ante on communication. That might up the ante on consistency, where there's a different level of expectation. But I know for me, like, some type of consistency is important and communication is definitely important. Another thing that goes along with setting boundaries is that you have to know what your deal breakers are. So again, if you're going the casual route, if you're going the dating with intention route, if you're going looking for my lifetime partner route, you have to know what your deal breakers are in regards to what it is that you can and cannot put up with, what it is that you will and will not compromise on. I hate to think about relationships being a compromise or something, but what I like to tell people is that you are a person who is living your life, being a person, learning to be a person alongside other people who are doing the same thing. So there will be compromise because y'all are not always going to see eye to eye on every single thing. So there are going to be areas, but you have to identify what are your deal breakers, what are you willing to be like, I can be a little bit more flexible on that, and what are you like, I actually cannot meet you anywhere near that. I won't touch that with a 10-foot pole. We need to go our separate ways. Some of those things for you might be respect, they might be honesty, they might be your personal space. For some people, I know it's like, if I'm seeing you, like you're the only person that I'm seeing and I expect you to be the only person that I'm seeing, again, that's a conversation that you need to have with that person, like beforehand, before y'all get, you know, really in too deep or whatever the case may be. Some people it's more little things, but it's like you have to know like what your deal breakers are, and you have to have those boundaries set strong. Because if you say that this is one of my deal breakers, I can't be with somebody who is a smoker, right? And you're like, whether that's a casual thing, whether that is an exclusive thing, whatever it is, I don't want to date someone who's a smoker. And then you decide that you're gonna, you know, be willy-nilly on that because he's so cool or because she's so sweet or whatever the case may be, but you know inherently that stuff makes you sick to your stomach, and this is not somebody that you would ever even think about being with, or it's not somebody that you even enjoy being around because all you smell is whatever it is that they smoke. You have to know that that's a deal breaker for you, and you have to be okay with that. You should be okay with that. You should honor yourself in, this is something that is a deal breaker to me, so I can't do this. And again, you can't be mad at that person if they're not willing to move or to budge on it, because they too also have their deal breakers and they also have their boundaries. And so if y'all just can't meet, then it's totally fine. Number 2 is communicate openly and early on. Be direct. When you're getting to know someone, you have to be able to communicate your boundaries clearly. For example, if you value your alone time, let your partner know that. If you are the type of person who, you know, you're like, Sunday is my day to unwind from 6 to 9 p.m. I do not pick up my phone. I do not answer the phone for anybody. I do not do any of this. This is my me time. This is that set time. Then you have to let them know that. And I don't want to say you have to let them know that, like you got to be like, first date, I need you to know this, don't call me between 6 and 9. But if you do see that things are kind of getting a little further along the lines, maybe getting a little more serious or a little bit more consistent or whatever the case may be, like let them know. Like I will honestly say, like I have 2 boundaries for me when it comes to communication, right? I am not the person that you should be calling all day, every day. I do not like that. I do not like that. It's not that I don't like phone calls. It's not that I don't like to be on FaceTime, but I'm just like, for you to like call me when I'm getting ready in the morning, and then you call me again because you're on your lunch break, and then you call me again because you're on your afternoon break, and then you call me again because you're headed home from work, and then you call me again because you're getting ready. That's a whole lot of calling, and I don't have time like that just in my day. And so that's another thing for me, is just like I let people know, like I'm busy, but I will hit you back, right? Like I'm not gonna be the person that just answers my phone every time you call. I don't have the capacity to do that. I work all day, I teach dance, I do gigs, I do all these other really cool things with my life, and I would hope that they're doing the same thing too. So it's like, well, yes, we can talk, we can chit chat, we can set up times. That's for me. I'm a planner. I'm like, let me pull my planner out. What day you want to talk on the phone? What time? Let's do that. Or I'd rather just see you in person, to be completely honest. But it's like communicating that early. I would say like another boundary for me is my morning times. Like, I do not like to talk on the phone when I am getting ready in the morning. When I wake up, because I wake up early, I go to the gym, I come back from the gym, I do my whole little morning routine. Like, I don't want to be on the phone during that time. And then after that, like after I take my little, you know, my little morning shot, my little morning health shot or whatever, I do my journaling, I light my candle, whatever it is that I'm doing that morning, depending on my time, as part of my morning routine. When I start getting ready for work, I still don't want to be on the phone. I am not a call me when you wake up type person. The morning times are for me. That is my time to get myself ready for the day. That is a boundary for me. And I've had somebody cross that, and that's how I figured out that it was a boundary for me. Because there's this one dude, and I only went on like maybe 1 or 2 dates with him. And once I opened up the line of communication for us to have phone calls, this man was calling me, and I hated it. I hated it. And I guess for him, that's his way of like communicating. Like, that's what he needs. And I'm like, I just wasn't answering the phone. I was letting that mug ring, because I'm like, you were calling me during a time that is mine. And I didn't tell him that at that time. I hadn't told him that. So it's like, he didn't know that that was a boundary for me. He soon found out. But that's a boundary for me. So it's just like openly communicating that early on. If you have those boundaries, whether it's something that you need or something that you do or something that you will or will not do, like, you need to let people know that if you see this, you know, going somewhere. And again, maybe you don't do it on the first date, but if you're dating this person or you've gone on several dates, y'all have gotten more into those conversations, like, you want to let them know, hey, this is something that I value. This is something that's a boundary for me, and I just want to let you know before we move forward. Another thing when it comes to communicating openly and clearly, and this is something that we do at work a lot too, with working with students, working with families, working in, you know, the social and emotional realms, is that you want to use I statements, right? You never want to approach it like telling somebody, well, you do this, so it makes me feel this. You just let them know, like, I need this. This is something that I need. I like to take the mornings to get myself together and to just be with myself, to journal, to pray, to, you know, work out, to de-stress, to gather my thoughts, to get ready for the day, to get ready on my own. You know, this is something that I need. This is what I use to recharge, versus like, you call me too much and you call me in the middle of my alone time and da da da. That is not the way that you want to approach it, because you wouldn't want someone to approach you like that, especially if you didn't know that that's a boundary for them. Now, I can see if you have told this person several times over, time and time again, and they just keep doing it, that's one thing. But when it comes to just setting that tone and having that open line of communication, like, you want to speak with I feel like this, I need this, I do this, I prefer this, versus putting the blame and pointing fingers on them, because people just tend to shut down, and it's just like, and if you're dealing with somebody who may be a little bit more anxious or who may take things a little bit more personal, then it's like, oh, it's me, I'm the problem. So then you have a whole different thing on your hand, because either they get defensive or they shut down and pull back. And those are not things that you're trying to make someone that you're dating or that you could potentially be, you know, dating in the long term. You don't want that. You don't want to do that to them. Number 3 is set emotional boundaries. And I feel like I do this, but I feel like I do it almost too well. You want to pace emotional intimacy. Like, you want to create a space where you can allow yourself to get close to that person and that person to get close to you, but you should not feel like you have to lay everything out all at once. And I do understand, because I've had people tell me that I'm like not open, or I'm a little bit closed off in certain areas. But for me, it's very important for that tone to be set. It's like, if we are communicating well and I feel like this is a safe place for me to open up, I'm gonna give you more and more, because I don't like to say I'm an open book, but I'm always up for open discussions. Like, I will talk about anything with anybody, but will I hone in and really go into the details of my personal stuff? Not really. If you ask my sisters, they might tell you another story, just because I am I am more open than all of us. I'm the more open out of all of us. But at the same time, it's like, I know, not to say like to pick and choose, but I know when to show up and how to show up. And if I feel like this is a safe place for me to be able to be open emotionally, then I will do that. But if I don't, you will feel like I'm being closed off. And it's not necessarily you, it's just between the two of us, we might not have set that space for us to be emotionally close like that, or in certain aspects. So it's like, yeah, I understand how sometimes that can be annoying, especially if you're like, I just really want to get to know this person, and I want to get into his mind, and I want to know this, and I want to know that, or I want to know more about her and all of this stuff. But it's like, you have to understand that not everybody's going to move at the same pace as you, and you're not going to move at the same pace as everybody else. And you should not feel pressured to be like, I gotta come and just lay it all out on the table. And there are some people that are like that, or that show up like that. Get some pointers from those people if you want to know more about that. I'm not like that, so I can't really go into detail about that or why some people are like that. But I do feel like if you pace the emotional intimacy, it does set a tone of like, okay, we can take our time with really setting those emotions out and getting to know each other, versus let me put all my cards on the table and then this doesn't go anywhere, and I literally poured out my heart and soul to you and told you everything about myself for this to come to nothing. Because that feels even worse, to be honest. Been there before, many moons ago. Another thing with that is protecting your emotional well-being. Now, there's two sides to this, because it also depends on how much you know that person, and again, how comfortable you feel with that person. If someone is pressuring you into a conversation that you don't feel super comfortable with, like if they're trying to pry into your sexual life, or they're trying to pry too much into part of your family life that you're not ready to give out, and let's say they're getting mad at you for it, or they're getting upset at you for it, or whatever, or they're getting annoyed at you for it, then that's something you need to just let them know, like, hey, this is a personal boundary for me, and while I hope that we can get there, I don't feel comfortable sharing that just yet. If they keep pressing, because some people will keep pressing, and some people will be like, oh, that seems like a hot point, I'm not going to touch that, I'm going to let you tell me what that is when you're ready to. I'm not going to pressure you to do that. But if you are feeling like someone is pressuring you to have certain types of conversations that you're not ready to have, that could also go into like, you're just meeting someone and you're clicking, and then all of a sudden things turn sexual and they want to like right into that conversation or that topic, and you're not there yet. Feel free to pull back. Feel free to take space. I just like to tell people, like, I'm not really comfortable with talking about that right now, especially if I feel like I'm getting worked up, or it's causing me like anxiety, or whatever the case may be. I'm just like, hey, let's table this, and maybe we come back to this. And it's okay to do that. And sometimes it can be like, no, I really do want to have this conversation with this person, but when it was time to have that conversation, I started having a reaction and I wasn't ready for it. It is okay to say, hey, let's circle back, because I thought I was ready to have this conversation, but I'm actually not. And if it is a person that truly cares about you and cares about your well-being, they should understand that. So feel free to set that boundary and to give some space, to pull back, to make sure that you are ready to have certain conversations and don't feel pressured into having them. Number 4, very important, establish physical boundaries, and always remember that consent is key. And a no is a no. And not saying yes should also be taken as a no. It is important to clearly communicate your comfort level with physical intimacy and affection. That is important because you don't want to give someone the wrong idea. You don't want to take something the wrong way. Just so you and that person can be on the same page. It's important for both of y'all to be on the same page. If you feel like it is too early for y'all to be intimate, or whatever the case may be, communicate that to them. I know sometimes we get caught up in the moment. It can get hot and heavy. We're all kissing and stuff, and the other person might be thinking, all right, well, you kissing me, you sitting on my lap, it's a go. But then you have to be okay with being like, I'm comfortable with this feels good, this feels fine, but I don't want to go any further than this, or at least not right now, right? So just letting that person know. And then also just understanding that physical boundaries might change over time. So the more you get comfortable with the person, you might get more comfortable doing more. So if y'all started off holding hands, or y'all started off just kissing on the cheek, then maybe next week you feel a bit more comfortable and you want to kiss on the lips or whatever. But it's important that y'all are communicating that to each other so that you're not pushing over somebody's boundary. And if you are on the end where you're like super okay with physical intimacy and you're not really sure that the other person is, it is okay to ask. It might feel a little bit awkward at times to be like, hey, can I touch you? Can I hold your hand? Like, is that okay? But it's better to feel awkward and ask for permission than to just do it and then have that person like recoil from you, or have that person get scared, or have that person be like, oh, well, the last time we hung out, you were way too forward. You put your hand on my inner thigh and it was just too close for comfort, you know? So just being able to communicate that. And on the other side too, like, instead of waiting for someone to do it, let them know if you have an issue with it beforehand. Just like, hey, I know we were making out hot and heavy the last time that I saw you, and now we're kicking it again. I want you to know that I'm okay with that, but I don't want to go any further than that. It is okay to set those physical boundaries. That is a mode of protecting yourself and your comfort level. And I just know that a lot of, especially women, and I'm speaking from the women's side because I'm a woman, soy una mujer. But I'm speaking from the women's side because I've heard way too many stories with women just like, they just went along with it either because they were afraid to stop it or to say no or whatever the case may be, or because they are so used to hushing themselves and just allowing things to happen. And to be, you know, completely honest, like, I can understand like being in that position. I know that there are some women who are like, oh, I could never, if I don't want him on me, I'm gonna say, get off of me, you know, back away from me, Satan. But some women are not as comfortable doing that, you know. And I found myself in intimate situations where it's like, I didn't really want that person to like kiss me or to like be that close to me or to hold me like that or whatever. And I just kind of like, it's in the moment, I'll just whatever, I'll just go with it. Just let him hold me or whatever, stand behind me all cheesy and stuff, knowing that I didn't really like it and I didn't really like him, versus just being like, like, I feel like my way around that though is like, I'm very like playful and I try not to make things very awkward. So it's like, if you do something that I don't really like or whatever, I won't just be like, don't do that, I don't like that, that's my boundary, you know, whatever. But I'll kind of like playfully turn out of it or like move my leg away or whatever the case may be. And if the person keeps trying, or if they keep doing it or keep pushing that boundary, not picking up on my non-verbal cues, because some people are just not good at that, then I'll have to be like, hey, I don't really like when you do that. I'm not really comfortable with you doing that. And that can be a hard thing because you don't want to reject somebody or make them feel bad or make them feel like a creep or whatever. But honestly, if they are a good person, inherently, they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry, I understand. And then you don't have to make it awkward after that either. You can be like, well, you know, I don't want you to like put your hand on my inner thigh, but we can hold hands, you know? So if it is somebody that you like and it just happens to be like, oh, it's just too soon for us to be that close, but I am okay with some form of intimacy or some form of affection, then you can let them know that and open that door. And again, that opens the door for communication with that, because now they know to look out for your nonverbal cues, and they also know that it's okay for them to ask you, well, hey, is it okay if I put my hand here? Is it okay if I put my arm around you? Like, and again, I know it sounds cheesy and sometimes it's just like, does it really take all that? But yeah, because sometimes you'll have people that won't do it because you have not opened up that space. Like, I've been in situations where I guess I am so good with setting up that wall when it comes to like physical affection or intimacy that a guy might not even think that it's okay to like put his arm around me. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, why isn't he touching me? Why isn't he holding my hand? Like, why this and why that? And it's just because all this time I have been giving off these nonverbal cues that, ooh, don't touch me or whatever, because I'm just being playful or I'm shy or whatever the case may be. So it's like, it's important to establish those boundaries and be okay with talking to people about those boundaries and what they are. This next one, I'm sure y'all hear it a lot, is don't be too available. But I like to say, like, manage the availability of your time, right? It is important for you to spend time with someone, especially when you're getting to know them or when you like them or when you're dating them, because y'all do want to have certain experience together, or y'all do want to grow your friendship, or you do want to grow your relationship. But it is also important to make sure that you are still taking time for yourself, right? I know for me, I am a person who enjoys my me time. I really do. I stay pretty busy in my life in general. So when I do have moments that I get to be by myself, I love them and I need them. And it's like, I can like you, I can love you, but I love myself and I like myself even more. And so for me, I've gotten really good over the years at just being like, if I already had a plan to like sit up in my house and I really and genuinely tied to that, and that is what I want to do, I don't want to do anything else, I don't want to get up, I don't want to get cute, I don't want to go out, I'm sorry, like, let's reschedule to another day. That's not to say that after we've already planned this date, if we plan this date, I'm going to be there, I'm going to show up unless, you know, an emergency happens. But I do understand that sometimes people become free last minute and it's like, hey, I'm going to finish up early today, like, do you want to hang out tonight? And I'm like, ooh, I do, because I like you and I like spending time with you. But also, like, I had already planned to do A, B, C, or D. Like, there was a time where, like, there was this dude that I was talking to and I really did like him and I really didn't want to see him because I was getting ready to go out of town, but I'm like, I have to shoot a video, I have to upload it, I have to edit it, I have to get stuff ready for when I get back from in town, and I still have to pack because I'm leaving at 6 a.m. And instead of me like telling him all of that, because he didn't need to know all of that, I was just like, I'm gonna have to catch you next week because no, I can't. Well, that's not what I said, but I'm just like, oh, that's cool, like, but I'm gonna have to catch you, you know, sometime next week or whatever the case may be. But it's like, old me many moons ago would have been like, okay, let me hurry up and figure out how I can do all this. How can I pack real quick? How can I get this video uploaded real quick and clean my house and get stuff ready so that I can have all that stuff ready when I get back? Or maybe I'll just wait until I get back and make sure that as soon as I get in, I do all these other things that I needed to do. And I was like, girl, heck no, don't do that. Do not do that. Like, and like I said, that was many moons ago. Me now is just like, my house not clean, like my house is not ready to entertain company, or I am not ready to mentally entertain company. I need a break, I need to wind down, I need time to myself. So it's really important to make sure that you are still prioritizing yourself, you're still prioritizing your hobbies, your work, your passions, the things that you need to get done, or just your rest over this other person. And when I say that, I don't mean like never make time for them. That's not what I'm saying, because you know, we're busy people, so you still have to make time for people, especially if you like them and you want to hang out with them, or you want to get to know them more, or whatever the case may be. Like, you have to make time, and people make time for what they want, but that just means that you are not always making time because you have these other obligations, or you have these other priorities, and it's important for you to stick to those. It's important for you to hold strongly to those and to make sure that you're still prioritizing yourself. So with that, it's just like, be okay with saying no when you need to. Be okay with saying, oh, I can't tonight, or I can't tomorrow, but I can do Sunday, or I can do next week, or I can do this, or I can do that. Like, be okay with doing that, with saying no, so that you can honor yourself, so that you can still get those things that you need to get done, and so that you can still, like they say, like, not be so available. You can still live your life and show that person, like, yeah, I like you, and yeah, you have become a part of my life, but I'm not gonna give up the rest of my life for you. If you've read the book, like, Why Men Fall in Love with B Words, I don't know if I can say that on here, but she talks about like this guy who was like so surprised that, you know, this girl that he was seeing, and it made him more intrigued with her, but she was like not willing to go on this, you know, really cool whatever trip with him, because she had a Tupperware party that was already planned, that she had already prepped for, something that she was looking forward to, and she was like, I can't go, you know, with you because I gotta host this party. I gotta host this Tupperware party with 14 of my friends, and we all just gonna bring Tupperware and exchange them, or whatever the Tupperware party was. And he was super, first he was taken aback because he's like, she don't want to go on this luxury trip with me that I'm paying for because she won't be back in time to host a Tupperware party with a bunch of women bringing plasticware. Yes, you gosh darn right. Like, I will give up a trip with you because I need to host my book club meeting, or I will, you know, give up a date with you because me and my friend were gonna watch Alice in Wonderland and drink Jack Daniels and talk about our lives. Like, yes, because I still have a life outside of you and I still have to honor that. So you know, you want some tips about how to prioritize yourself and prioritize your time, come to Miss Busy Bobby over here, and I can give you some tips and some pointers on that. But again, I say that as a person who wasn't always good with that, who wasn't always good with like prioritizing myself and prioritizing my time over hanging out with this person. There were times, again, many moons ago, back in college when I was talking to this one guy, and it's like, I was ready to jump anytime this man wanted to hang out. It was like, cool. And granted, like, I'm not gonna say I didn't have, well, that's a lot. I did have a lot going on then, but I was like just moving stuff, and where can I put this and where can I put that, and how can I move stuff around so that I can fit this man into my schedule. And sometimes you will have to do that, but when I tell y'all, there was a time where I was like, oh, I had already made these plans with this other person. Let me call them and tell them that I ain't gonna be there because Mr. Such and Such finna swing through and pick me up, and we're gonna go wallow in the wind, take a night on the town and have fun or whatever. And it's like, I should have just been with my friends. Looking back on it in retrospect, I should have been with my friends, but we gonna save that for another video for another time, because one day I'm gonna tell my story. I am a victim. I'm gonna tell my story. Number 6 for setting boundaries: be honest with your expectations. Have conversations early on about what you and that person both want for relationships, or from this specific relationship, whether it's something casual, whether it's something more, whether it's something else, whether it's something less. Like, have conversations with that so that y'all can make sure y'all are aligned on that. But also remember, like, we are people, things change, feelings change, times change, expectations change, you change, they change. So having conversations earlier on opens up the gate for y'all to be able to have conversations at each step of the way, and later on down the line, should things change or should other feelings come up for you. It is okay to be like, well, when we got into this, we wanted something more casual, but then the further we got into it, I started feeling this way, or he started feeling this way, or we started feeling this way, and y'all need to be communicating every step of the way. One thing for me, when I think about casual relationships, I think that there are a time and a place for them, but for me, and I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I feel like those sometimes need even, I don't want to say more communication than an exclusive relationship does, but they do need a level of communication around them so that you can know, are we still on the same page? Is this still what it is? I'm feeling this type of way. Let's talk about this to see if there is a resolve, or if we need to reset expectations or reset boundaries, or if this is going into something more, because I've been on both sides of that. So it's just very important to just set expectations of what you want out of what this relationship is early on, but also like revisit those conversations, because again, I say this all the time, we are people and every day we are evolving. Your feelings could change within the next week, they can change within the next month, they can change within the next year. And if y'all are not having an open line of communication for that, especially if it's something casual, it can start to look real muggy real soon. And sometimes it just takes like one conversation to just kind of reset, okay, we're back on the same page, because this just started to feel like something else, and I just wanted to make sure that we're still here, or if it's okay for us to still be there, or to move towards this. So sometimes it's not about, oh, let's have the conversation to see if we need to end it. It's more so, let's have the conversation to see if we're still on the same page. Let's have the conversation because we haven't talked about it in a while, and it's been another 6 or 8 months or whatever. So let's just make sure that we know what's still going on. Like, talk to each other. And especially if you're trying to build even a stronger, you know, relationship or even friendship or whatever the case may be, you want to have that open line of communication of this is what the expectation is going into it. Let's check in again in a couple months or so, or whatever the case may be. And whether y'all want to have set check-in times, like me, I'm a planner. I live for that type of stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. In 3 months, we're going to talk about it again. Let me go write it down in my planner and we're going to talk about it again. In 6 months, we're going to talk about it again. Let me, you know, and maybe when you are into a more exclusive relationship, like that doesn't need to happen. But for me, I would argue that if you are leaning more on the casual side or the go with the flow or let's just see where this goes types of thing, that needs a level of communication that may look different than an exclusive relationship, but still needs something so that both parties can know we're on the same page and we're good. And I already said at the beginning of this video, mama likes to be communicated with. I like to know where all my chickens are. I say that sounds so bad. Yeah, I promise I'm not out here running the farm, but I just like to make sure that I have an understanding across the board, and you know, and that we have that open line of communication, because if I don't feel like we have that open line of communication, then I'm gonna feel some type of way. The next boundary that you need to set is you need to handle conflicts respectfully. Remember, you are a person with feelings and that other person is a person with feelings also. But let it be known early that someone if they've crossed a boundary for you or if they hurt you in any type of way, like let them know how it made you feel. And again, speaking in I terms, like, I felt this way when this happens, instead of being like, you did this and it made me, you know, you want to refrain from that, because you don't want the other person, especially if you're like a woman talking to men, and especially if you're talking to a man who might not be as emotionally available or know how to have those types of conversations. Like, you don't want to have them like withdraw or have them just kind of pull away. Like, you need to approach the conversation in a respectful way. You want to keep it calm, you want to keep it constructive, and you want to focus on solutions. You want to focus on the action that happened and not put your assumptions behind it that, well, you did this, and so do you even care, or what? You know, you want to not place blame or assume that the person was trying to hurt you, unless you know for a fact that they were trying to hurt you, and then that's another conversation. That's somebody that you might need to reconsider being involved with. But you want to let people know when they cross a boundary for you, and you want to have a conversation about that to prevent that happening in the future. Don't be afraid to let people know that, hey, this was a boundary for me and this is how I felt when it happens. Because from their side, they might be like, oh snap, I didn't even realize I did that. Or I didn't do that to make you feel this way. Or if you have somebody who's just petty and they're like, well, you did this, so I did that. That calls for another conversation. But I'll just say that to say, be okay with having these conversations when someone crosses your boundary. Handle those conflicts, but handle them calm. If you are too elevated in that moment to have that conversation, like your emotions are running high, your anxiety is running high, your anger is running high, then maybe you need to pull back, gather yourself, and then approach them to have that conversation. And I will say, just from my own learning experience, like, don't send a text with all the information in it. Like, ask the person if y'all can meet up to talk because you've been feeling a certain type of way, or there's something that you want to discuss with them, right? I prefer face-to-face type things as well, but I do understand that that's not always possible. So you might need to do FaceTime, you might need to do phone, but don't use text message, because that gives an easy way out for you or the other person when it gets more uncomfortable to just be like, okay, I'ma just run. I'ma just run for a little bit. I'ma just disappear for a couple hours or a couple days, and I'ma come back to this because I can't touch it right now. And instead, just like use texting as a form of like, hey, there's something that I kind of really want to talk to you about. Can we meet up soon? Or can we hang out soon? Or can you come over after work? Or whatever the case may be, depending on y'all's relationship. But Yeah, that's a learning thing for me, because sometimes text can like elevate the situation to something where you didn't even mean for it to be this big of a deal, and now this person is like, oh my god, like I effed up, or oh my gosh, this is stressful, or oh my god, it just got real, or whatever the case may be, when you're really just like, I just want to talk about it, I just want to hear your thoughts about it. But in text, it's coming across a completely different way. Or vice versa, you could be super serious, super emotional, but in text it's coming across as not that big of a deal, and so this person's texting you back like, ha ha ha, whatever, and it's just like, I'm about to kill you, you know. So you have to be really careful when it comes to texting to resolve conflicts or to let someone know that your boundary has been crossed. You want to make it out of the mouth, straight out of the mouth as much as possible, and whether that be over the phone or over the FaceTime or in person. But you do want to address it. Don't wait, don't let it fester. Don't be like, oh, they made me feel like this on this day, and then I don't see them again for like 2 weeks, so then when we meet again, either I don't bring it up or they do the same thing again, and now I'm mad all over again because I didn't address it earlier on. So just make sure that you are respectfully and early on addressing those conflicts and those cross boundaries.